Hello foxes! Today we're gonna do something exciting. We're going to learn how to upload our own custom avatars into Spatial, as demonstrated here by 4042. You can see he's browsing through various virtual environments, interacting with multiplayer. This is going to be fun. So, without further ado, let's dive right into it. Step 1. We're going to need to download a few softwares. We will need Blender. I'm simply going to download the latest version. Second, we're going to need AccuRig. Please note that AccuRig is unavailable on Mac right now, which is why I'm using Windows today. And then next, we're going to need to set up Unity so that we can upload to Spatial. I'm going to Google Spatial Custom Avatars. I'm going to head into their documentation. But before I scroll through this, I want to get set up with the Creator Toolkit, right? So I'm going to go through that guide first of all. Now we need to first install Unity Hub, which we can do following this link. I'll just download the hub for Windows. But next we're going to need this particular version so that we can actually process our avatar with Spatial. So I'm going to follow this link into the archive and look for 2021.3.21. There it is. I'll just wait for the installers to download first. Okay, now that all of the installers are downloaded, I'm going to proceed. Starting with Blender, simply going to accept, use all the defaults, install. Next I want AccuRig. Okay. We got Blender and AccuRig installed. Now it's time to install the Unity Hub. Now I'm going to run Unity Hub. Notice that this is the latest version. We require an earlier version. So I will skip this installation. And then instead, from here, from the archive, I will select the required version as requested by Spatial. So I'll click Unity Hub. Notice how it offers additional installations. I do not need Microsoft Visual Studio, so I will untick it. But please note that you do need the WebGL build support module. So in this case, you want to keep this ticked. I'll hit install. And I'll wait until the process is finished. Okay, Unity and the WebGL build support have both been installed. Now we want to proceed. So they suggest starting a new project. That does not mean new project from within the Unity Hub. It just means they'd rather you use their starter template instead of using your existing Unity project. So we will follow the recommendation and do things from scratch. So following this link, we will download the template. I already took a moment to do that. Then we want to unzip the archive and open the project from Unity Hub. Once the project is open, you may see an update dialog. Click yes to update to the latest version. Okay, let's proceed. First, I will choose to delete the installers. I will unzip. I'll just remain in the downloads folder. Should be fine. So we should open up the Unity Hub using so projects. We will create a new project. Or open. There we go. We're using the correct version. This is my first time processing all of this, so please bear with me. Okay, so the import finished, and as Spatial Guide said, they will ask if you want the latest upgrade. They said click yes. So that's what we will do. Now, before we proceed to interact with the environment, authenticate, test, etc., I want to say everything we did until this point, you have to do only once. All the downloads, installing, we just prepared our desktop. Now, every time you would want to upload a new Fox into Spatial, you would only have to proceed with adjusting its parameters and rigging it before you publish it into Spatial. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So first we'll have to prepare our avatar. For that I created this empty folder. And now I'll go to Pool PM and download the avatar file. You can do this from the BadFox website, but I'll simply show you how to do it from Pool PM. We're already well familiar with this platform. So the NFT has two files, one being this animated GLB file. The other is this FBX file. Okay, now the FBX file is the one you can customize with. So I'm going to download that. Simply to download into my folder called 1198.fbx. Okay, save that. Close this. And now we open up Blender. So there are a few things we have to prepare. First, let's start a new project. Delete everything from it and import the FBX file. Awesome. So that's been taken care of. Now, step one, we need to adjust physical dimensions. Now, this says that you cannot go over 2.5 meters. Now, one thing they did not write down here, but is very important to know, is that the minimum dimension is 1 meter. Our foxes by default are maybe 30% the size. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to first of all resize our fox. Okay, for that I'm going to select all of the meshes. I'm going to click this first one, measure thing, so you can see, right, 0.3 meters is our actual height right now. So I'm going to, wait, something here. Going to click that scale button and look on the top left, you'll see scale X, scale Y, and scale Z. I'll take it to about maybe 3.5 times the default. And I'm going to measure its height again. Okay. This time we passed the 1 meter and we are under 2.5 meters. So our dimensions fit the requirements. That was number 1. Number 2, we need to fix the mesh count. As you can see, we are allowed a maximum of 4 meshes. Now each one like this is a mesh. There's no problem in combining all of them, but you might want certain layers as its own mesh. For example, the nail bat, or for example, the clothing, right? So I'll start with the eyes and the skin. I'll select the 3 of them, and then I'll right click and then click join. Now I've combined the 3 into one mesh. The total count being, for my case, 3 meshes. Means I fit the need. Okay, maximum need. So, need the triangle count. This will be the last adjustment we have to make. Okay. So for this triangle count, first of all, you need to come up to Edit, Preferences, Interface, Status Bar, and make sure you have Scene Statistics checked. Okay, this allows you to see these numbers on the very bottom right. See the tries? This is our triangle count. So I'm going to close this at Preferences, and now we're going to adjust our count. Now, to do that, let me target the biggest layer, being our skin. Then I'll come to Modifiers, Add Modifier, Decimate. Now, decimate allows you to reduce the quality of that mesh to influence your triangle count. Okay. Now, if I drag this to the left all the way down, you can see I have no skin left. But that also took the triangle count from 24,000 to 5,000. Okay. So I just want to keep this maybe just under 20,000 for a little bit of margin. Just know that when doing this, you want to select the correct layer. If I would now add a decimate to the prisoner or decimate to the nail bat, even at maximum dragging, I would have an impact no bigger than 4,000 triangles. So just make sure you find a proper layer or proper mesh that has a big impact in numbers with minimum dragging, okay? Because you want to have the least damage to quality as possible. Anyway, we're done now. I made my adjustment. Now we can export this. When exporting, we need to consider there are 2 things we need, okay? One being the actual avatar after we adjusted all of its parameters. The second being a profile picture, okay, for spatial. So let me start with a profile picture. I'm going to add a camera. I'm going to reposition it as we've learned in previous lessons. And I need to adjust its size. Okay, so I'm going to find this output button and I'm going to change it resolution X to 256 pixels and resolution Y to 256 pixels. Now, let me just peek in the camera hole. I think I can move it around a little bit more. Not quite happy entirely. Okay, with that position, I'm happy. Now I need to add a light. Let me start with a spotlight. Gonna move it around a little bit. Drag it there, drag it there. Let me change its direction or angle. Okay, now to see the actual camera, I need to make sure that scene lights and scene world are active. and the viewport shading. Now you can see from the actual camera that my avatar is still very dark. To fix this, I'm going to select my spotlight. I'm going to come to data and I'm going to adjust its power. As you can see, the more power I give it, the more light I have. Perfect. I think this is good enough. One more thing we need for the camera, the background has to be transparent. If you don't have a transparent background, the profile picture will be rejected by spatial. So what we have to do is hit camera, and then we'll hit render. And if we scroll down, you'll find film. Within it, there's a transparent checkbox. Tick that, and we are now ready to render our profile picture. So I'm going to hit render on the top left, render image, and I see this tiny box. So I'll hit image, save as, I'm going to go to downloads, and I'm going to save it in my folder. I'm going to call it 256 times 256, which is the image dimension. You can name it whatever you want, by the way, it does not matter. Cool, so now we've got that out of the way. Now it's time to export the avatar. So to do that, we're going to select the meshes of our avatar, being the clothing, the skin, and the nail bat in this case. Now that I've selected all of them, I'm going to hit File, Export, Export FBX. Now I'm going to head back to my folder. In my case, you don't have to. In my case, I want to replace the existing file with our new changes. But what is important to do is that on path mode, instead of auto, you need to copy. Okay, and then on the right, you have this gray box. You want to make sure it's blue. Okay. Now, with the include limit to, you want to tick selected objects, which is why we selected the 3 prior. Now we're ready to export the FBX file. And here we proceed to rig our file, okay? In this case, I'll just save the Blender file. You can always come back to it later. And that's it. So, next step, rigging. I'm gonna start AccuRig, and I'm gonna choose our edited FBX file. All you gotta do is click Rig Body. You can feel free to adjust the joints and move them around as needed. But as you can see, they're already pretty accurate, so there's no need to do that. Now with hand, our foxes have 4 fingers, so make sure you just adjust that properly. Okay, and there we got our fully rigged avatar, compatible with spatial I/O. Ain't he a beauty? Okay, so the next step would be exporting this file. So we're gonna click Export, FBX. I'm not sure what the drop down does, if it has an actual impact on the file or not, but I'm simply going to select Unity. And with max texture size, I'm going to reduce it to 1024 because there is a size limit for spatial. I'm not sure what it is, but this is the recommendation I've been given. And then I hit export. Now please note, if you do click embed texture, you may have actual problems uploading your textures. So just don't select embed. I'm going to replace our existing file with a new file, and that's it. Now you want to upload your file into Unity, into Spatial. So we're going to launch the Unity Hub. We're going to launch the project, which was given by the Spatial I/O documentation, the starter template, or the creator toolkit, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to drag everything we have from our avatar except the Blender file. We don't need that, obviously. I'm going to drag it into Unity. Okay, now next you want to click the FBX file. Make sure that you do see the colors on top of it, because if the avatar is gray, then it will be uploaded as a gray avatar. It will not have its textures applied. So make sure it does have the textures. Anyway, we come here to rig, and for animation type, you would have to select humanoid and then apply. Now you right click the FBX file and then do create prefab variant. Okay, now that we have this prefab, we can click it, scroll down and do add component. Now we add a spatial avatar. Okay, and that should pretty much be it for the avatar. Now, if you haven't already, click the Spatial SDK and make sure that you log in with your account. Okay, if you don't log in, you cannot proceed to the next step. Only after you logged in, go back to Spatial SDK and click Configuration. Now is when we want to create an avatar. So from the drop down, select Avatar Spatian, I believe it would say here. Then rename it to whatever you want. Drag the prefab onto the prefab slot and drag your thumbnail to the thumbnail slot. Now you hit publish and wait. Now you can see we have some errors. The object uses too much texture memory. Okay, now if you have errors during this time, you can come back to the custom avatar documentation and they will tell you exactly how to manage them, handling errors when publishing your avatar. So if you have too many verticals or triangles, for example, we resolved that prior, or too many meshes, we will already resolve that. Or have a valid humanoid rig, we already did that. But you can see that there is no explanation about how to fix the texture memory limits. So in this case, I'm going to attempt to use a different size for our textures. So I'm going to delete everything we imported. I'm going to go back to AccuRig. I'm going to hit export, Unity, and we try 512 in that case. Save, replace. Okay, now we'll load everything again. I'm going to click our FBX, rig, humanoid, apply, right click, create, prefab, add component, avatar, SDK, config, drag, Thumbnail is already selected. Publish. And there we go. It looks like we have resolved that previous error. Awesome. So all you had to do in that case was re-export after rigging. Now you see your package was successfully uploaded and we started processing it. This may take as little as 15 minutes. You will get an email. Okay. So now all I want to do is close everything and wait for our happy email. So we'll be back soon. Okay, so I've received the email. I'm going to now head over to Spatial so we can use our newly loaded avatar. I've logged in with the same account that I've logged in from Unity. Okay. Now I'm just going to launch Spatial I/O. Okay. Now if you click the top right and then edit avatar, then you will see you have a bunch of these, but then your custom ones here. Now, the first time I tried this, okay, in Unity, my avatar was gray. The result of that being that it uploaded without textures. When I try later again, making sure I can see the colors of my avatar in Unity, that's when my proper avatar was applied. Okay, so that's a very important step. When you export the avatar from AccuRig into Unity, you have to follow very closely with the textures. Otherwise, you will have the same issue where you uploaded without textures. Anyway, so that's it. I select, I save, and now I'm a bad fox in a very bad spatial world. Haha, let's go. Oh, not bad. It looks good. But yeah, let's go.